Oh, developers, yeah. I have a brilliant idea for charms. Currently, charms are sort of a forgotten feature within Tower Defense Simulator. Most people probably only have one charm, that being the default charm. Sure, other charms exist, for example, the Gunslinger charm, the Elementalist charm, Boss charm, etc, etc, etc. However, these charms, most people, they're forgettable. The only charm that I really think people actually care about is the Titus charm, purely because it was gotten from the Hexscape event as the Triumph of All Knights badge, and that was actually kind of exclusive, and this charm is actually kind of badass. However, other than this, I don't think most people actually care about charms. Now, initially, charms were planned to be a store item. So in the store right now, there is like a section for towers, skins, and emotes. However, there was meant to be another section here called charms, which were released alongside name tags. However, this never came to fruition. For whatever reason, I don't know. The only reason that I can speculate is because there were no original ideas for charms in Tower Defense Simulator. That the demand would be very low. Like, I would suppose the developers looked at the sales for, say, the Gunslinger mini plush, Molten Boss mini plush, etc, etc, and saw that actually not many players were buying these for the name tag that they give out and the charm that they also gave out. So I suspect they just canned the entire idea altogether for a charm store. Nextia has talked about the charm store, however, it has not been added to the game. However, I have a brilliant idea to A, inflate the amount of charms that there are in the game, and B, make it so there is a feasible way to add all of them to the game, but also satisfy the developers, make some money from them. My idea relates to logbooks. Yes, I think based on the idea that other enemies do have logbooks in the game, I think enemy logbooks should give you the chance or give you the ability to purchase a charm that looks like a enemy. So for example, as you can see here, you can have like Frost Spirit charm, you have the Fallen King charm, Ducky Doom charm. Yes, there is an enemy theme to all of these charms. I mean, yes, you also got some towers like the Snowballer, Elementalist. Snowballer has throw snowballs. But I certainly think that if you were to somehow allow people to buy charms, they earn the logbook for that enemy. So for example, imagine a abnormal charm that you could use to vote in matchmaking. That would be pretty cool. I don't know, the Abomination charm. However, I can't really foresee this for event charms because they are within the battle pass, and I don't want to ruin that. Like, we're gonna have to make sure that this causes as little friction as with the current game as possible. So I'm just gonna have to unfortunately say event charms are banned. However, everything else, fair game. So for example, the amalgamation, yeah, that could easily be seen as a charm. However, I think the developers may have some issue with the fact that it's an exclusive enemy, and I think event enemies are also exclusive. So perhaps we may need to exclude to enemies that aren't exclusive whatsoever. So casual, intermediate, easy, armor charm. Armor toilet charm, well, it's an exclusive enemy, so I don't think that would work out. Same for the arrow, same for the balloon, it's considered exclusive for some reason. But the boomer charm, for example, yeah. Now, I don't know how much this should cost. Maybe it should be something related to like its health. Given the fact that logbooks are dropped, or their chances are being dropped based on the amount of health they have. Like sure, after 100,000 health or after a certain amount of health, it's like a 10% chance where you're like guaranteed to get the logbook. And there are pity kills for logbooks as well. But I quite like the idea of the charms, or enemy charms, being based on the amount of health that the enemy has, purely because that's also the rates used for the chance logbooks rather than the pity logbooks. Now, this shouldn't be too much effort. Like, you're just goldifying, or in fact, you're just colorizing, making a solid color out of an enemy. Yes, I'm hesitant to include non-exclusive enemies. However, non-exclusive enemies, even exclusive enemies, they can make it into a solidified, solid color just for a charm quite easily. Like, imagine a failed experiment charm, like not this, because obviously it's broken, but still. Executioner plush charm. That would actually probably sell quite well, I can't lie. A Fallen King charm. Now that is pretty cool. Yes, I'm aware that there's already a Fallen King charm in the game. That's in terms of like a plushie, for example. It should probably be renamed to Fallen King plushie charm, and then the Fallen King charm should be added to the game. Now, all of a sudden, the developers have a lot of charms in the game that they can easily sell in like its own section in the store here, and it entices logbooks to actually have a feature within Tower Defense Simulator that makes some money for the developers. Because I don't think that logbooks on its own, just allowing you the ability to spawn into admin mode when that's locked to level 250, I don't think many people care too much about that. However, if you lock it, so you need the logbook to purchase the charm related to that enemy and spawn it into whatever matchmaking you have, then I think that would actually maybe entice some players to actually use firstly coins, because everyone has an excess amount of coins, but also charms. Everyone, if you don't play the event, has the boring default charm, and I think that should change. That is a crime against humanity. Why not have a long ducky actually, I've already said that event enemies shouldn't have their own charm because it's already in the battle pass. But still, just make it for an exception for this specific port view for the long ducky. Yes, this should be a charm. This easily solves one of the features in Tower Defense Simulator, which I think is underutilized. Like, compare the amount of emotes that you've had in the game, and all of these emotes have probably been around for like forever, since 2020. Meanwhile, the charms, yeah, most of them only been recently added, and it's been a slow-paced adding. So all of these emotes were added in 2023. Meanwhile, these emotes, or these charms, were added in 2024, 2025. It's like, I don't know about you, right? I nearly have 700,000 coins. I would actually like to use these coins on something meaningful. So, having charms in the game based on enemies that you can get through logbooks, which are just modeled on the enemy itself, I think can be a pretty good idea. It's minimal effort on the developer's behalf. The community gets something unique in Tower Defense Simulator, and a lot of them, in one fell swoop, and it utilizes an underutilized feature in Tower Defense Simulator. Now, I know the developers watch my videos, but they might not watch this video, so please, developers, please consider this idea. Just add enemy charms to Tower Defense Simulator as a proper feature that you can buy in the store. Like, we were promised a charm store, but we never got it. So, now's your time. Perhaps you could add it for towers as well. I mean, I don't know how it would work for towers. Maybe let's make it do something similar to like the golden skins, right? 10,000 coins, spend it on a tower, you get its charm. And yes, I'm aware that there's an elementalist charm and the snowballer charm. So, you know, we're going to have to also, again, restrict it away from event charms. Or perhaps not. The developers aren't actually foreign to having event stuff be added to the main game. So, for example, Intern Scouts and other Philips XTDS skins were like a seasonal thing. However, developers have re-added this to the Premium Crate and the Deluxe Crate, meaning that event skins have effectively returned as evergreen skins. So, why not charms? Why not make it so these towers or these enemies can actually return, and you have even less effort to put into some enemy charms? Like, probably not the Fallen King or the Nuclear Monster, Gunslinger, Multi-Boss or Gravedigger, but Ducky Doom. What happens if you have the Ducky Doom logbook? You're able to buy it as a charm, and then people all of a sudden they want to get all the logbooks in the game, because there are some people who probably don't want all the logbooks because all it gives you is admin mode. Again, it gives use to the logbooks for not just the index, but also a money-making machine for the developers, and you don't need to wait until level 250 to take advantage of the features of logbooks. I just see it as a win-win for basically everyone, apart from completionists, because they would have to put more effort into completing the entire game. However, it does actually entice people to actually get the hardcore mode logbooks, which, bear in mind, because the pity rate is 60 and because the health cost is extremely hard to get, yeah, you probably have to beat hardcore mode 60 times. Sorry, I don't make the rules around here.